Good morning, everybody. I've been continuing to play through the Assassin Rogue that you can see featured right before your eyes, and I gotta say, as I've been continuing to upgrade it and get it to the higher levels, the experience, it just kinda sorta changes. Like, one of the biggest things I've noticed with this character is that the leveling process was pretty smooth. It was easy to get through a large portion of quests because I could just sneak around and avoid monsters that I didn't want to deal with, or if I had group members with me, I got all sorts of crazy sneak attack damage off on the targets, and it was pretty easy for me to get to level 20. But then something happened, and it's epic levels. I think this is going to be a problem that needs to be addressed a little bit at some point by Strimtom Games. I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but it's the problem of epic destinies. When you level up through epics, level 21, 22, 23, you get very little individual power, and that's because the majority of the power comes straight from your epic destinies themselves. Once I hit level 20, so when I went from 19 to 20, my character almost quadrupled in damage output, which just seems wrong. All of a sudden, from Shadow Dancer, I had all these crazy additional sneak attack die, I had 60 extra melee power just from the tree itself, I had fortification penetration, assassinate DCs, more instant kills, more defense, and my character just felt pretty much unstoppable. It was so night and day that I was considering not even running anymore on Reaper mode as I got closer to level 20 because the monsters were getting a lot tougher than they were previously, with more health, more defense, and just ways to keep killing my character. All of a sudden, all the monsters have like 5,000 life. It takes a while to chop through them. But the absolute second I hit level 20, I was like, okay, cool, let's just do Reaper mode or whatever, like it doesn't matter, because all of a sudden, hey, does that monster have 8,000 health? Doesn't matter, rip it apart. It was such a stark contrast between level 19 and level 20 that it really makes me think that there's something that's going to need to be done with Epic Destinies to kind of either smooth out the curve so it feels more impactful when you actually gain levels in Epics, or just maybe a total shift in general as to how the Epic Destinies are supposed to be designed in the first place. But to keep it more focused specifically on the Rogue, I did make a couple adjustments and changes to the character build. So once I hit level 20, I realized that healing wasn't as important as it was before. My use bench device was high enough that I could easily access heal scrolls, and I was able to get stuff like Rejuvenation Cocoon for the healing at the end game. So I decided to swap out the Halfling Dragon Mark at level 3 for Completionist. If you happen to be building this character yourself, you can just keep it if you don't have Completionist. On top of that, I decided also at level 24 to take the Rogue Past Life Sneak of Shadows because it adds a large amount of hide as well as sneak attack damage. So it's very, very powerful for adding to your damage momentarily. If you don't happen to have that feat, it's fine. You can just take something else, but it was pretty helpful for me. You could probably just take Improved Sneak Attack instead of that at 24, which is an epic feat that gives you extra sneak attack damage. As I continued the level, all of a sudden, I got to level 29 and started applying all of my gear. I threw on every single thing that I could find, all these different items to try to put some pieces together, and I got my gear list. I'll link it in the description of this video here if you want to take a look at it yourself. And my character changed. I was strong, and I felt really good before, but then I became sort of invincible. The Rogue has, especially once you get like all of your gear sorted out, a lot of layered defenses. Over 130 armor class, over 30, I think it was like 36% dodge once I had my gear on, 25% incorporeality, and 25% dodge through displacement. My character felt really strong, really fast. And it was pretty much a situation where if a monster came at me, I didn't really feel nervous or uncomfortable about the actual fight that was going to ensue, and especially if something was sneak attackable by me, it nearly instantly died. Not to mention the fact that having the capstone of Shadow Dancer means that you don't really need to use Assassin's Trick very often. If you're entering a fight, it's useful to use Assassin's Trick because it removes the monster's sneak attack immunity, but let's just say you're wailing on a boss that might have sneak attack immunity, the top tier ability of the Shadow Dancer, so one of the cores, the last core, makes it so that if you're attacking a monster and you roll a 20, you just so happen to remove its sneak attack immunity. This means that you're basically never really worrying about whether the monster is immune or not during the fight, because during the fight, it's not going to be immune. My character very, very easily hit 100% double strike, 100% offhand attack chance, and is around 20% offhand double strike. So every time I swing my weapon, I'm hitting 3 times. I attack about 2.5 times a second with my attack speed boosts up, so 2.5 times a second, and each attack is actually 3.2 attacks. I'm getting a 20 every 2.5 seconds or so. So monsters pretty much always had their immunity stripped off of them, and since balanced attacks, or as it should be called unbalanced attacks, twist from the Primal Avatar tree, has the ability to knock down targets when you roll a 20, even against one singular monster, I never really need to worry about being unsafe at any given moment. Now, when my character was level 29, I was doing some Slave Lords, and I had the opportunity to test out my damage a little bit, and with a good chunk of my gear, I was landing about 15,000 15,000 DPS with the Rogue, which was impressive because I wasn't even level 30. Level 30 bringing the Scion of the Ethereal Plane, which is the big damage effect that gives you extra sneak attack damage based on your hide. I didn't even have that at the time, and I still had about 15,000 DPS. Once I hit level 30, and my character got pretty much as much gear as I could physically squeeze into it before the raid before raid night had started. For raid night, we decided to do Project Nemesis, as well as Too Hot to Handle, and then finally we ended with Shroud, Legendary Shroud on Reaper 6. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the footage of the Legendary Shroud on Reaper 6 because I wasn't recording at the time, which is, in hindsight, pretty dumb. But it was an interesting Shroud. It took about an hour and 40 minutes, and my character felt amazing during that Shroud run. I know Shroud is obviously an older bit of content, but trust me when I say that most of the monsters in there still do extremely high amounts of damage and will one-shot you, even on some of the lower difficulties. The Bearded Devils on Reaper 2 or 3 will literally destroy you in one hit, and doing it on Reaper 6 is no exception. Almost every single monster kills you in one hit, and you gotta be very careful of what you're doing. And my character flourished. Having 150 hide, I was able to just sneak around and never really get noticed by anything, constantly being able to assassinate all of the squishier targets, and applying very high amounts of damage. The character felt super duper strong, and I'm really looking forward to how the character is going to end up once I actually finish the character with all of my items, which is actually just one. I'm only missing Suffering from Babala Saga. Hopefully I'll be able to pick that up and make the character really full so I can test this against the endgame. Now, since this character is going to be staying here at level 30 for a bit, I want to do some Reaper 10s. I want to get some more Reaper experience. So I'm at 67 points right now. 75 is within grasp, it's within reach. I want to keep working towards that goal, but this character seems like it's very handy at being able to do that, since even on the higher Reaper difficulties, if something doesn't have Death Ward, my Assassinate DC with 103 right now just kind of knocks things over and takes care of business. So anyway, I'll pass it over to me, who will tell you guys how to build this character if you want to do it yourself. Alrighty, so here we are, the actual character in question. This is my level 20 rogue stream. So I'm almost finished my item build as of right now. I've got the physical magical resistance right here, health bar, that sort of thing. Character's decently strong. This character does hit 90 dexterity in Reaper mode, which was kind of my goal, so I'm happy about that. It's landing at the stat peaks that I wanted to hit, and then on top of that, it's pretty defensive. It's got 122 armor class right now. It goes up a little bit in Reaper mode as I get more dexterity. Also, my maximum dodge chance currently right now is 32%. It actually goes up higher once I actually use my stealth, because this character gets more dodge and stealth. We'll talk about that in a minute. And one thing I wanted to bring attention to is the actual strength of this character's defense. So it says that my effective hit points right now is 9,579 as a melee, which is pretty good, because this character's got physical resistance rating of 152, goes up a little bit in Reaper mode. Our magical resistance rating actually caps out once we get into Reaper mode, so this actually goes up to 100, so that's not a concern there. But most importantly, not only do I have the 28% dodge chance, which then, again, continues to go up in Reaper mode, so once I'm in Reaper mode, this caps out at 36%, but also avoidance, with the 25% incorporeality and 20% concealment. 25% incorporeality comes from Shade Form, from the Epic Destiny, and in Shadow Dancer, and then the concealment comes from my feet. So I actually don't need to wear any items to get this incorporeality and concealment, and only a couple items to get the dodge chance and the armor class. So my character is actually fairly tanky. And when the situation arises where suddenly I need to be even tankier, I'm able to give myself extra stats through things like uncanny or improved uncanny dodge. That extra 50% dodge making me pretty much immune to physical attacks for a short period of time. So if you want to build this character yourself, here's how you do it. I started with dexterity, all my points into dexterity, and then I put points into dexterity as it leveled up. Strength was unimportant. I just had some of it, so I didn't run out of the ability to hold stuff in my inventory. Charisma is not important. Wisdom is not important. Intelligence, I had a little bit more because intelligence gives you a extra skill points and stuff. And then Constitution was kind of important. As far as skills go, this character uses kind of the most, pretty much every skill. You get a lot as a rogue, but most importantly, search, disable, balance, bluff, hide. You need hide for your stats. Open lock, search, spot, swim, tumble. Use magic device. A lot of these are important. I mean, the biggest ones: use magic device, search, spot, open lock, hide. You don't need move silently, but you do need hide. Hide is what's going to allow you to sneak attack monsters and deal additional damage with your sneak attacks, which is something we'll get to in just a second here. As far as feats and what the leveling process looked like, so I started with 2-weapon fighting at level 1. That was the first feat that I took. Is it under martial? No, it's combat styles. Yeah, I think it's combat styles. Yeah, I took 2 weapon fighting at level 1. At level 3, I decided to take the halfling dragon mark. I specifically took the halfling dragon mark at level 3 so I could swap it out for completionist later. If you don't have completionist, feel free to take the halfling dragon mark at level 1 and then take 2 weapon fighting at level 3 to give yourself some extra healing for the early game. Then as I went through, I made sure to take greater and improved 2 weapon fighting. I took precision. I took improved feint as well to get those extra attacks. I really like improved feint because it allows you to sneak attack targets just in combat. And then improved critical piercing as well, since this character does use daggers. As far as the rogue feats went, I took opportunist because it gives a little bit of double strike as well as 10% fortification bypass. I took crippling strike, which is here, so I get a little bit of extra strength damage. Not the most useful all the time, but sometimes it comes in handy to do that strength damage. You can make some monsters helpless. And then I took skill focus on this character as well. As far as the epic feats went, I started off by taking overwhelming critical. At 24, I then took the past life rogue, which is this one right here. So past life rogue is called Sneak of Shadows, and what it does is it gives you for a minute, it gives you a bonus equal to your level to your hide and move silently, so it's 30 hide, so it brings it up to 180, which is effectively 10 extra sneak attack damage. Then it gives me a bonus of sneak attack damage of 1 + 1 per 2 character levels, so 16 extra sneak attack damage, and +1 to hit bonus with sneak attacks every 4 levels. You know, I gotta get out of the water so I can show this off. I was gonna be like, oh, this is my timer to how long I have to record the video, because my health is going down, but I really wanted to show off what the actual damage is like, and I can't do that while I'm here in the water, so I'm just gonna come over here for the rest of the video recording. All right, anyway, so that's kind of the idea there, is doing a lot of sneak attack damage with that feat while it's active. So if we're actually going to take a look at some of the damage here and the general combat things, this character's got 110% fortification bypass, which is actually too much. You don't need more than 100%. You do for some monsters in Sharna for beating monsters that have extra fortification. Generally, though, you can get improved destruction effects and stuff like that and not really worry about it. This character also happens to have dodge bypass, but also sneak attack, 2 hit bonus of 30, damage bonus of 88, and 30 d6s of sneak attack damage. Keep in mind, all of this damage scales off of 1.5 times your melee power, and I have a decent amount of melee power, currently sitting outside of Reaper mode with 151. However, this character usually goes into stealth, which increases my actual melee power and my dodge. So with Measure the Foe, which is why I have a dodge of 36%, this will be going up to 38% once I get an augment for my armor, but I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. And of course, as I said, this all goes into the sneak attack damage here, doing about 200 extra sneak attack damage per hit. That scales with 150% on the melee power, which think about this as being about 320 melee power, so we're getting close to 1,000 damage on our sneak attack on its own, which is kind of cool. On top of that, then if I want to, during combats, I could just use Sneak of Shadows right here by clicking this button. Boom, there's an extra 20 bonus damage sneak attack. And 8? That's wrong. That's right. Huh. So Sneak of Shadows, it looks like, is not calculating properly. So that's kind of neat. Anyways, so that's the gist of it here. It's kind of cool with the actual sneak attack damage. As far as melee combat goes, this character also achieves a minus 98% threat multiplier. We'll talk about that in a sec. And the offhand hit chance is 100%, with my double strike being 82%, and then I have rapid slash up 100% of the time, which is an attack that gives me an extra 20% double strike. So this character sits around 100% double strike, and usually 181 melee power in combat. I get about 20-ish melee power from the Reaper tree, so in Reaper mode I'm over 200, which is again something I wanted to reach on this character, and I managed to do that, so that makes me happy. Now as far as these enhancements go, this is kind of how I ended up for the end game with this character. If you'd like to play this exact build, and you have no racial points, you can literally just do this without the racial points. The racial points are not necessary to the build. They do just give you a little bit more damage. So if you have no racial points, no universal points, don't worry about it. You can still fit everything in here. My character only has 90 points to spend, and I have 13 spent on the halfling tree, meaning you'll be able to actually save some money, or not save some money, save some points in here, and you'll still be able to get everything else. So out of the assassin tree, you make sure to take all the cores. You're picking up the assassin or the extra sneak attack damage on the side, the movement speed. You need a poison because the poison will activate your weakening strikes to reduce the damage of your targets, as well as assassin's mark. which gives you extra damage against poison targets. So you want to make sure you're always poisoning whenever you're attacking. The poison's pretty irrelevant and doesn't matter too much. It does reduce the monster's fortitude saves when you hit them, so you can reduce their fortitude saves. And since my character has 100% double strike as well as 100% offhand attack chance, this always hits a minimum of 3 times, so it's -3 on their fortitude saves. Same with Shiv, also reduces the fortitude saves of targets, which stacks up to 5 times. So if I Shiv a target and then I hit them with the Heartseeker Poison, they immediately get -9 to their fortitude save, which is pretty good. And then you can follow up with an Assassinate or something like that after you reduce their fortitude save by -9. I don't take the bleeding skill here because it sucks and does no damage. I do not take the Shadow Dagger because I don't need to blind stuff. This seems like it could be kind of interesting, and it does a lot of damage at scales with melee power, but again, it doesn't seem like it's important enough for me to consider using on this character. I also don't use the Venom Blades because while this does scale with melee power, it's a very small number, and I'd rather just have better confirmed critical hit damage because this character does have a high critical multiplier. And then I take everything across to tier 5 as well as Execute. Execute is amazing and you'll be using it all the time, especially if you start entering high Reaper mode, because this damage does get reduced by Reaper mode, but you'd be surprised how often it comes in handy when a monster gets under a third, and even on Reaper 10, you can just press a button and instantly delete it, even though it has like several thousand hit points, which is kind of cool. Assassinate, no-brainer, is a very, very good ability. And then we use Measure the Foe, Deadly Strikes, the Extra Knife specialization for the crit. And then I do like to take Light Armor Mastery because I wanted to get as much max dex bonus on my armor as possible. Out of Vistani Knife Fighter, we take all the first 5 cores. I want to make sure you grab Rapid Slash as well, and the attack Haste Boost. Now, Haste Boost, you don't have the most amount of action boosts in the world. My character only gets to run around with 9, but it's good enough. We're playing in Shadow Dancers, so we're not using Prowess or anything like that, but it's still pretty good. I want to take all of the Miststalker because it's physical magical resistance rating, which is good defensively, but also stuff like Immunity to Fear and Energy Drain is just very useful when you want to kind of be more independent on your character during a fight. You can remove negative levels, of course, with greater restoration, having lots of magic device, but this is just easier. You take Celerity for the main hand offhand double strike. You take Double Daggers for the extra 20% offhand attack chance, giving you 100%. And then in combat, you just want to make sure that you're using Vistani Fortune all the time to get those extra little stats. It has a 1-minute duration, a 1-minute cooldown, so if you even wanted to, you could probably get a program that can auto-use this for you every minute to make sure it's always up. If you wanted, I just manually click it, it's not too big of a deal. And then plus 2 all ability scores is nice. And that's pretty much it. And then out of Thief Acrobat, you want to just grab the move speed, because as a rogue, you're going to be sneaking around all the time. And so if I am moving around, I need to make sure I'm actually catching up to people. And you'll notice I don't move as fast as other people, so any bit of movement speed is helpful. And then once I actually drop the stealth, I move very, very quickly, and I can catch people because of all the extra rogue movement speed, getting 1% per level. So that's kind of cool. Now, as far as some of the other tidbits and pieces of information here, we're going to talk about the Epic Destiny. For this character, I decided to run in Shadow Dancer. Shadow Dancer is really good because it gives a lot of sneak attack damage and a couple other things. It also gives reduction of threat, so minus 20% melee and ranged threat, stuff like that. So this character, the main things, takeaways that you want to grab out of this tree. I grabbed the extra stealthy here because it gives +6 to your assassinate as well as +6 hide, which is just useful, and hide in plain sight as well, meaning if a monster is chasing you, you can just press stealth and then they automatically can't find out where you are, which is pretty cool. I also grabbed the extra open lock, search, disable, and all that stuff because my character has awful disable and other stats. I don't have the level 30 item yet, so I need to find one. So in the meantime, this is good enough for me to be able to disable some stuff. Hopefully I'll get a legend or an epic keylock ring soon. I grab Lithe because I want the extra max dex bonus on my armor, so I get more dodge bonus. And then of course I grab Grim Precision here because it gives fortification penetration. Now up here at the top, these are a couple different decisions why I decided to take them. Sealed Soul makes you immune to energy drain. I already have immunity to energy drain, don't I? I don't need Sealed Soul. Anyway, don't take Sealed Soul because you already have immune to energy drain, and I'm an idiot. Executioner Strike is really, really good. You don't need to put more than 1 point in. It gives you a little bit extra damage, but that's not really important. What matters is just taking 1 point. This has a 35% chance just to do an assassinate on somebody, and even if it doesn't, it does a big crit. So use Executioner Strike as often as possible. This is an amazing ability, and I highly recommend it. I use it all the time, and it works pretty consistently. It does drop you out of stealth, though. Untouchable, because it gives you a little bit of dodge, and +1 crit multi for 1 point. It is a godsend. You've got Consume, which is effectively Implosion, but it has a really, really high DC. So right now in Stealth, I'm at 116 DC Consume. So pretty much nothing makes their save ever, and you can consume whatever you want all the time. With my Assassinate being 102 right now, it goes up in Reaper mode to 104. So it gets a little bit higher. I think Consume also going up to 118 in Reaper mode. Execution Strike going up to 114 in Reaper mode. I've got Shadow Form, because Shadow Form is really good. It's a one-pointer, and it makes it so that it gives you a plus 30 bonus to your Hide, Move Silently, and Tumble. 30 is a lot. I think it's just one per character level, and so as a result, my character has a very, very high Hide of 150, and with Hide in Plain Sight, I can just stealth whenever I want to get to drop aggro. It's very useful. And then, of course, you've got Dark Imbuement. This ability I wasn't sure how to feel about at first, but then the more I played, especially when we were doing our legendary Reaper 6 Legendary Shroud, I realized, hey, you know what's cool? Not being in melee. With Dark Imbuement, the way it works is once you actually throw on the ability, whenever you make your attacks, you're going to notice this crazy whooshy cloud that's going in front of me. Your attack range is about here. So if I'm trying to attack this potted plant, I can get it from about here, which is pretty cool. Even though that's how far away I am, I'm still able to hit that potted plant. You can stay at a range of a lot of the big melee cleaves. You can stay at a range of things like Hellball during Legendary Shroud, and it's very, very useful, so I highly recommend it. On top of that, it just happens to add some extra good stats, giving you additional unholy damage, melee and range power, and sneak attack dice, and 30% chance to explode in a large radius. This is a massive, massive boost in your damage for 30 seconds, and it's only got a 2-minute cooldown, so you can use it pretty much all the time. As far as my twists go, this character, I've got 5 twists here, starting with Martial Him. Now, generally, for the leveling process, I wasn't using Martial Him. I was using the helplessness damage thing, Sense Weakness. But for rating, Martial Him is better. It gives you more damage against bosses. And Martial Him is amazing for this character because it gives me Dexterity, Sneak Attack dice, maximum hit points, Physical Magical Resistance rating, Armor class, and Melee and Range power. So if I throw on my Martial Him as well right now, that brings me up to closer to my cap of Magical Resistance rating, a little bit more physical, of course, and then the Melee and Range power goes up a little bit higher. This is going to bring me all the way up to 191 now, so clearing 200 easily in Reaper mode. I grab Balanced Attacks because Balanced Attacks is really, really good. This allows you to knock targets down with a Vorpal, and when they're knocked down, they count as helpless. You do a ton of extra damage to them. Also gives you +6 to hit, which you're going to need. Dance of Flowers, because this gives extra damage. Now, plus W is not useful during the leveling process, so until I got to level 29 and had my weapons on, I didn't use it. However, now that I am level 29, one of the weapons that I have here is Pain, half of the whole, and you'll notice this thing is a D4 +3, so getting an extra W actually starts to matter at that point, so I'd recommend doing that. I then take extra action boost because it's +3 action boost, and also first harmonic chord for +3 to hit and damage. This is kind of the order of importance as to what I would recommend you do. So if you only have 3 points, do these 3. If you can afford Martial Him, Bounce Attacks, Dance of Flowers, and a 4th tier 1, go with the extra action boost, first harmonic chord, leave it all the way at the bottom. It is useful for the +3 to hit and damage. Some people are confused about this and think that you need to be able to sing a song. If you read below the first line, it says your Inspire Courage. At the bottom, it says passively you benefit from +3 to hit, damage, and saves versus fear, which is really good, and it affects your character all the time. So that's pretty much how I run around with the character. I'll talk about the gear real quick. So this character, I am pretty much fully geared. I'm missing a dagger and boots, and I'll talk about why in just a sec. So we are using the Collective Sight on this character, grabbing ourselves some, Constitution and Insightful Dexterity, because it's hard to get Dexterity to fit into builds. We're using, fine, I'll just put this over here. We're using the Legendary Umber Brim, because it's got Insightful Accuracy, Insightful Deception, it's pretty good. It's got Profane Well-Rounded for +2 to all stats. I'm using the Family's Blessing, the raid item. You don't have to use Family's Blessing. You can use the Family Recruit Sigil. You just need to make sure you get Double Strike somewhere else into your build. I use Family's Blessing because it gives Double Strike, as well as Quality Assassinate, which is very, very good, and Insightful Armor Piercing. Whereas on top of that, I've got a 5 rings, Slave Lord's 5 rings, which also has Armor Penetration, giving me Armor Piercing and Insightful Armor Piercing, as well as all the stuff like the passives, Armor Penetration from my tree, the Opportunist feat that I took, the Precision feat, a whole bunch of stuff that works really well for that. The Slave Lord's item is very powerful, giving me Quality Dexterity, as well as Sheltering for that magical resistance rating and a little bit more hide. Cloak of City's Champion I use here because it just gives parrying, it gives Insightful Constitution, Quality Physical Sheltering. It's just a good cloak. It's pretty much one of the best cloaks you're going to pick up here. I also use the Animated Rope because it gives Deception and Dodge, both 2 stats that I don't really get anywhere else, which is kind of nice. You don't need the Combat Mastery, but Deception and Dodge are just important. You need to make sure you've got Dodge chance all the time. Now, as far as rings go, I am using the Ring of Silver Tongue. This is going to be the best pretty much item you can get on this character, and there's no real replacement for it. You just got to go do the raid killing time, which is where this comes from. It's good for a couple of reasons. Number one, it has improved deception on it, which is really nice, but mostly Assassinate 9, Insightful Assassinate 4. It's plus 13 to your DCs, and there's no real replacement for it in the game. It's essential for this character. You need to make sure you get one of these. Insightful Deception is replaceable because you have Insightful Deception from the legendary Umber Brim, but the Assassinate and the Insightful Assassinate, you can't really get this anywhere else easily because Assassinate is the stat that comes on gloves. Unfortunately, I have to use the Hammer Fist, so you're not going to be able to get those there. Next is the Celestial Ruby Ring. I use it for Dexterity. That's actually where my Dexterity item comes from. And then it's got Stunning, it's got Accuracy, it's got Ghostly. I don't need the Ghostly, but the Accuracy and the Stunning and the Dexterity is all useful because I do use Dire Charge on this character, although my DC is kind of low. The artifact that I chose for this character is the Brand of Kellogg Sash, or Shash, because it gives quality, accuracy, quality, deadly. That's it. And it also gives me the artifact. Now this thing is going to be actually taking some filigrees to give me an extra 16 melee power, meaning I'll be clearing about 220 melee power once this character is fully figured out. And then we have the armor piece, the wild card, which is for the part of the family set, which is the set that we're actually wearing. Now, as far as weapons go, I'm going to be using Pain and Suffering, and the reason is because of the set bonus. You get plus 2 Ws to each of your daggers, and they're the best daggers in the entire game. Pain isn't my main hint because it gives Fetters of Unreality, because I don't have Suffering, which this gives Deception as well, so hopefully I'll be able to get that soon. And as you can see, it has all the different effects and stats on it. The weapon happens to have some pretty high damage, with a 15 to 20 times 4 critical threat rating, and once I get the other dagger, it's nice. In the meantime, I am currently just running the Morning Lord's Dagger. As far as my filigrees go, this is kind of what makes the character interesting. I'm running 2 individual 4 sets right now, both in the dagger. I have Treachery 4-piece set, because Treachery gives melee power, sneak attack damage, and DCs of Assassinate. Let me just put this dagger here so you can kind of see it. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Put this dagger here. So we're running 4 Treachery. So the Treachery, we're running Threat Reduction for 50% threat reduction, the Critical Confirmation because it's the best crit, melee power for 5 more melee power, and some Stealth because Hide and Move Silently just gives you a little bit of extra sneak attack damage. And then we're also running Shattered Device. Now, Shattered Device with the 4-piece set makes it so that your melee and ranged attacks have a chance to reduce the enemy PRR and MRR by 10, which is great. You hit so often, it's always up, so this is really good. Suffering is a weapon that I don't have. It's a dagger that also reduces physical magical resistance rating of monsters by 10, meaning your monsters are going to be having a minus 20 on their physical and magical resistance rating, so they're taking about, I think it's like 31% extra damage from attacks, which is cool, and I dropped their I drop vulnerability stacks on them with Fetters of Unreality, so any monster that comes into contact with my character is going to be taking over 50% extra damage just because I'm physically standing next to them and slapping them in the butt. As far as the individual things I'm using melee power, magical resistance rating, physical resistance rating, and attack and damage, because this also gives some double strike and some other cool stuff. The last filigree that I plan on using on the Brand of Kellogg Sash is a 3-piece setup that is Sucker Punch, melee power, 1 against many, melee power, and then the combo 1 against many, Sucker Punch, strength filigree. The 2-piece set for Sucker Punch is 5 melee power. The 2-piece for 1 against many is 5 melee power, and if I use the 5 melee power from each, plus the rare set, I think it's either 15 or 16 melee power or something like that from those 3 pieces, which is good. 16% increased damage is very good, especially considering a lot of my damage does come from sneak attack in general. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing there, and that's how I build the character. So if you want to play this yourself, I highly recommend it. This thing tears up the end game. Very, very defensive, very strong. I'll be doing more streams with this, and this character is going to be getting played for a little while, especially because I'm still missing boots. The problem with boots is I literally don't have anything I can use. All the boots that I have are superfluous and do nothing for this character, so I might have to craft something, but I don't know. Like, originally I was wearing the Spectre boots, but I have Seeker, I have Double Strike, I have Ghostly in other places. Maybe I could use the boots to give freedom of movement. That could be something. But like at this point, I have no idea what to do. So the item slot is just empty because I don't know. I'll probably can craft something. That's kind of neat. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. I mean, as always, if you like it, or if you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. If there's anything you didn't find out or learn about this build here, or if there's anything I can help you with, get through there, just let me know. There will be a full build description on the forum, so you can find the actual written build in the link below the stream, which will also link to the items that are being used there, so you'll be able to see that. Other than that, that's pretty much all I got for you today, so thank you guys for watching. I hope you had a fantastic time. Subscribe to the channel. Consider supporting via Patreon if you like the things. I don't know. Just like, you know, hang out, have a good time. Play this character. It's really, really fun. And it's very good. Man, it's so good. I can't even believe I got my Assassinate DC over 100. I was impressed by that. And the fact that Consume goes up to 116 right now. And then in Reaper mode, it's 108. Oh, yeah, we didn't even talk about the Reaper points. I took everything in the Dread Adversary tree. It's really dumb because I can't actually use Memento Reaper Strike because 30% double strike doesn't work. Because I'm already at cap. And the Reaper Imbuement doesn't work because I'm already at cap on this. So it's pretty much just deadly strikes, and this kind of sucks. So yeah, I don't even know if I should spend the points, as many points as I do in Dread Adversary. I kind of liked having 41 because I like all the melee power that you get, like 6 melee power, 6 melee power, 3, 3. So that's 12, 21, 24 melee power in Reaper mode, which is pretty good. But I feel like Grim Barricade, just getting a whole bunch more health, picking up the dodge cap, physical resistance rating, getting extra dodge cap, which would bring me up to 40... It's basically my max dex bonus. My maximum dexterity bonus caps out at 38, so I don't need to get any higher than that, but yeah, I don't know. A lot of the stuff is kind of weird. I'm going to end the video. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.